I'm being so awkward because I'm nervous. I'm trying so hard not to fangirl.
Oh. That
Yeah.
makes me feel good, but nothing to be nervous about.
I mean, like if you go and look at my other videos, I'm just like, I'm babbling away, I'm rambling, and now right here I'm like quiet like a mouse.
Well, if you ramble and babble, then that's really bad because I do the same thing. And when I go on other people's shows, I really count on you guys to rein me in because I won't stop. Like you have to get me to stop and interrupt me. So this could be bad, but you know what? At least it'll be fun. I feel like.
Yes, it will. Okay, just actually, people can't see you, but they can hear you talking. So,
Okay.
but nonetheless, I will introduce. Okay, so hold on. Here we go. We're live. Hello, everybody. Hello. Yes, you can tell. I'm trying not to fangirl, but I am here. I'm live with the one and only Mike Figueredo of Humanist Report, the legend, the one and only. Please, everybody, welcome him. How's it going, Mike? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing? Thank you for calling me a legend. That just feels so unwarranted, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. It's such a pleasure to have you here. How are you enjoying this miserable election? How are you enjoying politics at the moment?
I'm so fantastic. Everything's going so smoothly. No, I'm miserable like everyone. You know what though? I will say that it's an important time because even though the left lost, it gives us some much needed time for introspection. Like, I don't want to be like those centrist Democrats after 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost and they thought they did everything right and they tried to blame everyone else. I really want to figure out where we went wrong so we can fix all the errors that we made in the future. And we made a ton of errors, myself included. So, it's a good time for us to reflect. That being said, it still really sucks. I really kind of felt like this was our moment. And that moment has passed. So, it's not over. We just keep fighting because we don't have a choice. But yeah, it could be worse. It could always be worse. So I'm not gonna.
I mean,
I don't know what the future holds.
Aren't you excited about the Unity task forces though? It's going so great. Any moment now they're gonna give us Medicare for all and everything. It's coming, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, the task forces, I don't know what it is about them. It makes my blood boil whenever I hear about them because we're past this, right? Like, I don't need a task force to tell me what the solution is when it comes to healthcare or education or the economy. We know what the answers are. The question is, are we going to do what we already know and implement those policies? And the answer clearly is no. So I'm incredibly skeptical about the task forces. I mean, look, if you're looking for something to hang on to right now and you're hanging on to the task forces, I don't blame you because this is a really dark time. So if you're going to hang on to that, hang on to it. But I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
And, this is, for me, I feel like it's a way to placate the left, right? Make it feel as if we're being heard.
Exactly.
Like we have a seat at the table, but they're just patting us on the heads when really we shouldn't be focusing on this. Focus on the real things, the real ways that we achieve power. And there's a multitude of ways to do this. And I think that a lot of the left, myself included, has been really hyper-focused on electoral politics. But we have to do more than that. We have to go beyond electoral politics, beyond voting, really focus on organizing and building power at the local level. I think that's one thing that's been missing. But I mean, American politics is very personality driven. And even if you're like us, where we don't focus on personalities, it is easy to hyper focus on, national politics because, the left kind of is a leaderless movement. So we're looking for anyone to be a leader when, I mean, it sounds corny, but we're the heroes that we've been looking for all along, whatever the term is,
Voila. Yeah. That's the thing. I agree with you. I think the task forces are a way to placate the left, and also, the left have to look inward as well. Like you can't. Yeah. It's very. It's part of human nature to kind of look for someone to lead the movement, as you said, but doing it at the local level helps a lot. What do you think about? And yes, we have been focused a lot on electoral politics. Me too. I fall into that trap sometimes. We're really down, on a microscopic level. But I mean, what do you think of? Okay, so let's just start with what happened. I mean, the bills that got passed, the coronavirus bills. what do you think of AOC, Bernie, all these progressives like voting for them? I know they didn't, like AOC didn't vote for the fourth one or something like that. They didn't vote for every single one, but in general, they definitely passed the first one, gave them, the corporations trillions. What do you think of that? What do you think? What kind of message does that send?
Yeah, that is, I feel mixed on that. It's tough, right? If I were in Congress,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have voted for the bailout, even if I understand that my constituents are desperate. They're looking for anything. I think I wouldn't have voted for that, because part of the problem with the left strategy is that we we're a lot of bark, but we don't have much of a bite. Like, we can talk a big game, but when push comes to shove,
Yeah.
we kind of fall in line. And I say we, like, generally speaking, not necessarily like you and I, but I mean, like, generally speaking, the left is always there for Democrats. They always toe the line, and they've got to play hardball. Like, for me, I think that if progressives in Congress learn from the Freedom Caucus, uh, strategically speaking, they can be more effective. But I do understand that the numbers in Congress currently are small. But
Yeah.
still, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, not all of them are great, tried and true progressives. But I mean, they are a large enough number to where they can hold strong as a block.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
they just have to kind of have more of a backbone. And look, it's easy for me to say that, right? Because I'm not in Congress. Like, these are their colleagues. But you have influence, and you have to wield that influence. Like, for me, if I'm AOC, I have leverage because, first and foremost, I have a lot of name recognition.
Thank
Quite
you.
frankly, I'm famous, right? I have millions of Twitter followers. So if you don't want me to turn my army in your direction, then maybe at least adopt one of the policy proposals that we're throwing out there. But,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, maybe she feels as if that's not what's going to make her effective. I don't know, like, what's going through their heads, and I would like to analyze them, like, from a psychological perspective, because the thing about these types of institutions, and why electoral politics can't be our only outlet for change, is because these institutions, they have the tendency to get people to acquiesce and co-opt, for lack of a better word. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, like, AOC is a sellout, but there's so much pressure that we don't have to deal with. So, for people in Congress, I think that one thing that would help is making the numbers of progressive people just larger. Maybe they'd feel more confident. I don't know. But I think that if they feel like, people outside of Congress will put enough pressure on them from within, maybe they'd feel emboldened. Maybe they'd have the confidence. It's tough. But just from my own personal perspective, I think that they really need to learn how to play hardball. And a lot of them are new. Like, AOC is younger than me. So I get that, like, you're learning, right? We're constantly making mistakes and we're learning. But what I hope that they take away from this is that you can't win if you're not going to actually play hardball. And a really key component of that is calling out leadership, right?
Exactly.
Leadership is such a failure.
They never do it.
No, and that's such a difficult thing. And I understand, because, like, you want to be able to not piss off Nancy Pelosi if you're in Congress, just because you want to make sure she can't use her institutional powers to marginalize you and strip you of your committee assignments. So with that being said,
send the G-men to your house.
I mean, like, I get that, right? Like, I understand that you have to build bridges and you don't have a gigantic block within Congress to really affect change. But still, I mean, you have public opinion on your side. There's a lot of tools that you can use. I think it's just a matter of trying to navigate, the pitfalls of, the Democratic Party and figure out a way to, bypass it. It's hard. I don't think there's, like, a perfect answer to this, but I would have not voted for these. And with each bailout, it's getting worse. Like, with the first bailout, it was trillions of dollars to special interests. This next bailout, Republicans are finally open to the idea of another stimulus package. But guess what's going to come with that? Some task forces, for lack of a better word, to analyze what we can do to, quote unquote, save Social Security. So there's always some type of poison pill. And we know that Democrats are not going to fight them. They're not even going to know what's happening, or they're going to want to go along with it. So they don't have a choice. They have to fight. Otherwise, we're going to be worse off. So, it's not a concise answer, but they have to fight harder. That's the easiest way that I could break it down. You have to fight.
They have to fight, man. They don't do anything. I mean, like, okay, you want to play devil's advocate for the first bill and say, like, oh, well, we had to give those checks to everybody. Okay, but what about this last bill where they're giving small business money, the PPP to lobbyists, dark money groups? What? Like, what's going on here? This is really ridiculous, and I think it highlights that you have a one party system. I mean, these people, it's like when it comes to war, when it comes to the corporate bailouts, they're always on board with everything. They just don't fight. They just, okay, yeah, they go and do a little speech, but then when it comes to voting, whose side are they on? And what I thought was really weird and frankly deceptive is that you had Rokana, Ilhan Omar, AOC, like on Twitter, they're saying, oh, on the next bill, I'm going to vote no. But people don't understand that they meant no to debate the bill. But when it came to actually passing it and making it into law, oh, they voted yes. And they didn't tweet that part. So, yeah. I mean, this is just, man, it's messed up. Nobody's putting up any kind of fight. And like you said, the leadership, man, Nancy Pelosi, she does whatever she likes. This is just ridiculous. I'm enraged, and I feel like Americans should be as enraged as I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you not enraged? Do you not understand what's going on? It's horrible. It's horrible. We really need, you know, as independent media, we really need to educate people, frankly, because they don't understand the technicalities of their own government, and it's really disappointing, man. It's really awful. Like, I mean, you know, going forward, do you think that it's more effective to you know, there's people making this argument that, oh, we just need to elect more progressives into the government and then magically we'll have these numbers. But I mean, you don't have midterms every other week. This is something that takes decades. So what do you think of direct action? What do you think of a rent strike, general strike? I mean, why is no one talking about that? Like you said, AOC has tremendous influence. All she has to do is just go and tweet like, screw you, Pelosi. We're going on a rent strike now. Why didn't she do that? No one is, you know, putting up any kind of resistance. What's up with that, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. These things, I think ultimately with the rent strike and general strike, I think this is really the key. And if you look back to history, these types of mass movements, they never came from the top down. Like, it was never catalyzed by like someone saying, hey, let's do this. I mean, you have leaders, of course, throughout history, but it always started at the bottom, right? Yeah. And I think that this is something that if AOC were to say, hey, let's all go on a rent strike, I don't know what that would do. I think that if you saw like these local organizations start saying in this particular county, we're not going to pay our rent, that would be huge. Then you'd see it catch on. I mean, kind of like the teacher strike in West Virginia. So this is basically my main thing and what I'm telling to progressives. Well, two things. First of all, acknowledge that there are no heroes in Congress. These are human beings who are imperfect and they have a lot of pressure. And so they're never going to do everything that you want. So you're going to be dissatisfied if you put all of your stock into one individual. Yeah. Second of all, politics is local, and that's really, really important. And I think we've been missing this because, like we said, we've been hyper-focused on electoral politics and at the national level. But if we all at the individual level really affect, you know, where we live, then that could make a difference. And maybe it's as simple as joining like a local DSA chapter and holding weekly meetings. At first, that might not really amount to anything, but maybe you can, you know, organize to get municipal broadband and eventually lead up to rent strikes. Like, building power, I think that the reason why, and I don't begrudge any of us for really being too focused on electoral politics, because we did almost capture the White House. Like, we were this close. So it's easy to, like, when you're that close to the highest power of the land, to be focused on that. But I think that we have to get back to the cutting board and figure out what's going to work. And you have to subvert these institutions. Like, sure, keep electing progressives. That matters. But don't think that that's the only way. Like, we just have to wait 15 years and then we'll have maybe 50 progressives in Congress. That isn't going to be a great strategy at the end of the day.
Plus, what's ridiculous is like, Pramila Jayapal, she doesn't even use her powers to whip everybody online. She's like, yeah, I'm going to vote no, but like, I'm not going to force anyone else to do it. Wait, like, what's the point then? You call yourself progressives, all of you, and then you just act like the neoliberals. Who wants to join your stupid caucus if you're just going to act like that? It's ridiculous. And this, man, what really pisses me off is this vote blue no matter who, and like, oh, we have to get Donald Trump is the most dangerous president in modern history. No, he's not. Like, were you people not around when Bush was president? Do you not remember that shit? Oh my God. What is this?
And you know what's interesting is that give it like 10 years. And whoever the next Republican president will be, like, they'll trot out Donald Trump and say, remember the time when we had Donald Trump, a real president? I may not have agreed with him, but, I mean, this is the thing. There's always going to be a Republican boogeyman, and they are like they're boogeymen, right? This is an insane party. Like they are very much comparable to the fringe parties that you see throughout the world, who usually don't get that close to power. Like, I mean, you know, you can look at France with the I forgot the name of the party, National Front, maybe. Like they almost, you know, they made it to the they made it to like the runoff, and they almost got power, but they didn't actually seize power. But we have one of two major parties in the United States basically get power, and rather than like anchoring their feet in the ground and saying, we're not going to follow you to the right, as you know, Republicans move further to the right, Democrats are following them, you know, so. And that pushes the entire Overton window to the right, including with many people within the left, where they feel like, you know, like Pramila Jayapal, for example, maybe I can't challenge, you know, the establishment because I'm already kind of pushing my luck here with Medicare for all, this and that. I don't know what's going on, you know, psychologically, but the situation that we're in really is, it's laughable, for lack of a better word. And I always bring up this example, like the Democratic Party in the United States, they're to the right of, you know, the Canadian Conservative Party, you know, the Tories in the UK. Because, I mean, even Boris Johnson, like he's against the national health system, but he can't just come out and be antagonistic towards it. He has to try to covertly undermine it. Whereas Democrats are openly, I mean, what are they saying? No, I don't support Medicare for all. Joe Biden said he'd veto it. So we're in a bad situation. And I know that people in Canada call us naive for kind of like romanticizing the Canadian like style, because it's really like there are corrections that are needed, right? Yeah. But anything is better than what we're dealing with right now.
It's better. It's definitely better. And I love that you bring up the example of the UK, you know, like it's so true. You can't just come out and say like, oh yeah, let's abolish the NHS. Boy, I'm going to do it tomorrow morning. No, what? Like you can't do that. You can't say stuff like that. They definitely been chipping away at the NHS, you know, with these 0-hour contracts. Absolutely. They have a shortage of 40,000 nurses. It's terrible for sure. But the NHS itself is one of the best healthcare systems in the world. And I mean, it's like compared to the US especially, oh my God, this would be a blessing. But however, you got the Democratic candidate now, you know, Joe Biden on the left, right, saying, "Oh no, I'd veto Medicare for all." What? Like they have the balls to just say like, "Yeah, I don't want anyone to have healthcare, and you know, if you're too poor to afford it, well, screw you." And I'm a right winger. What?
Yeah,
like, this is insanity.
While simultaneously saying that healthcare is a right, it's like, okay, hang on, you can say healthcare is a right, but that means you have to support Medicare for all. You cannot say healthcare is a right, but then say you would veto Medicare for all. Like these are incompatible positions. So, you know, it's just, we have, like, I feel like the one thing that I'll take away from this election, even though we lost overall, is the fact that this like energy is here, right? This left movement, the same underlying material conditions that led to this like uprising, if you will, they're going to remain in place. So I don't necessarily believe that like with Bernie Sanders, the movement will go away. I think it's going to transform for sure, right? I kind of feel like Occupy in a way was an extension of or Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016 and 2020 was an extension of Occupy. Yeah, so I think this is just going to turn into something new. I don't know what that's going to turn into. And I don't necessarily think that as like political commentators, we can predict or dictate what that will be. I think this is going to be something that really pops up at the local level. And it's going to have this like domino effect, because this is kind of the way that things tend to happen. You know, one city is effective and one group is really, you know, just so strong at organizing, and then others emulate that model. And in a way you get change. But, you know, this whole cycle has kind of got me. I really hope so. This election cycle has got me to really change my views. Like I think everyone is always evolving politically, but I've made a lot of jumps. I think that it's okay to say that I'm probably a bit more radical coming out of 2020 than I was going into it.
Listen to me. What you call radical is normal in the rest of the world. Having healthcare is not radical. Yeah, this is just what the mainstream media want people to believe. But yeah, I feel you. Like you know, being more bold about it and just being like, listen, give me what I want or screw you. You got to be that way. You got to be. It's politics. It's politics.
And you know, here's one thing that I've been thinking a lot about, because we've never had, at least in my lifetime, this much momentum when it comes to something like Medicare for all. We've talked about it forever, but it's never been like this discussed as long as I've been alive. And so thinking about the possibility of actually like getting Medicare for all, you have to think about the future, and you have to understand that these wins, even if we can win, whatever that may mean, these are not permanent victories. Progress can be undone. Social Security was a gigantic achievement, but it is constantly under threat.
Exactly. As soon as
being
FDR died, they
undermined.
tried undoing it with the Supreme Court, man. They get to work. Wall Street don't waste no time, you know, like they're ready.
And it's a non-stop battle. So even when you win, you have to defend those gains. So that's why I myself, I've moved to, you know, just kind of being, you know, a social democrat to where I'm strictly anti-capitalist, because, you know, I want to be able to win and make more progress, not have to go back and defend what we've managed to gain. But, you know, how we get to like a socialist system, I don't know. There's never going to be a utopia, but it's just a matter of like, I've changed the way that I view the world, because there's so much at stake, so much that needs to be changed, that I think the old analysis that I was using, it's no longer credible in this state of politics, in this late stage of capitalism.
Yeah, and you know, you were one of the first people I saw from, you know, the top YouTubers, the top lefty YouTubers. You were one of the first that I saw saying like, listen, I'm not voting for Biden. There's no vote blue, no matter who this time. If there's no Medicare for all, no vote. And you know, I mean, that's a very normal and rational thing to say. Nonetheless, you'll have people on MSNBC saying, "Oh, you're going to cost us the election." No. So you know, that was very cool, and I was glad to see that, because I feel like you know, people in the USA, they're taken for granted. Especially on the Democratic side, and especially minorities, you know, they're just taken for granted. Like, yeah, you're going to come vote for vote Democrat. But you know, I just wonder, like, do you think that at the end of the day, voting in the general election or the midterms actually changes that much? Because, you know, if Democrats are going to behave like Republicans, if like, you know, the neoliberals are going to vote and act and implement legislation like Republicans, I mean, what's the point at the end of the day if they're all going to do the same thing?
I will say that I think that voting is important. There was a time throughout this election, namely like after Bernie kind of got his clock cleaned, you know, on Super Tuesday and whatnot, where I kind of felt like, fuck it, I'm not going to vote. Because what's the point? You know, I don't want to participate in this system that I don't view as legitimate, because I feel like no matter how much I vote, how often I show up, nothing really changes. But at the end of the day, I do want people to vote. And, you know, when it comes to Democrats versus Republicans, I want the left to go into this realistic, right? And acknowledge what you're getting. I don't care if you are going to vote for Biden for purposes of harm reduction. I think that voting for the lesser of two evils is a strategy that is perfectly reasonable. I used to vote for the lesser of two evils. I was pretty much a Kool-Aid drinker, vote blue no matter who, you know. Even in 2012 with Obama, you know, I voted for Obama again and was making the case for Obama to my friends who disagreed with me, who were dissatisfied. But I think you have to be honest. We're not going to get Medicare for all if Biden is, you know, elected. We're not going to primary him. The best thing that you will get out of a Biden presidency is he'll probably replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I think that does matter. But at the end of the day, you don't trick yourself into thinking that it's going to be better than it is, because you're going to have to fight him at every step of the way. Right. He's going to do a lot of bad things, and a lot of people on the left and center, they're not going to pay attention to it because he's doing it with a nice face, which is really dangerous. So I think you have to fight no matter what. And basically my take on this is, like, I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. I'll vote probably for Howie Hawkins in 2020. But I do that as someone who lives in Oregon. If I were in a swing state, I would reconsider. I'd probably vote for Biden just for the Supreme Court. It would be to stop Trump from replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But with that being said, I understand that I'm kind of in a unique situation where I can vote for not vote for Biden and not really think about it, because all of Oregon's electoral votes will go to Biden regardless of who I vote for. But it's a tough situation. And I think that either way, you have to respect people. You can't voter shame. And you have to acknowledge that people are going to make the decision that they feel is best for them. And the left shouldn't get divided over this. Like, this is one thing why I'm a little bit frustrated. I see like a lot of people on the left butting heads. Like, we see Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kalinske kind of go at it on Twitter. Yeah. And I had to bite my tongue. Like, I try to jump in and it's like, no, stay the fuck off the Twitter, Mike. Because I get in too much trouble. But like, you know,
what were they even fighting about? I think I jumped in and I don't even remember what it was.
Basically, you know, to simplify, he was doing
the vote blue no matter who nonsense, right? Yeah.
Effectively, yes. And I think that if you're going to say, I'm voting for Joe Biden because of reasons X, Y, and Z, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to judge you. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Like, I get it. Trump is awful, but don't lambast people who don't agree with that strategy, because I think they have a valid reason. And a lot of people in this country don't live in swing states. If you live in New York or California, is it really worth it to divide the left and like,
No,
lambast those people? It's not worth it in my view. So
not.
it's just, I don't know. My view on this is complicated, but at the end of the day, understand that it's lose-lose for the left. If you get rid of Trump, great, we defeated Trump, but then we have Biden, and we have to figure out how we navigate that, how we keep the left awake, because the left, myself included, went to sleep during the Obama years, and that's a harsh reality that we have to deal with.
Yeah, it's really a tough situation, and like you said, it's a lose-lose for the left. Honestly, man, like there's just there's nothing else. I mean, you can make the argument for the Supreme Court, but other than that, there's nothing else. This is a choice between a right winger and a right winger. That's it, and it's always been like that.
One thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Go ahead, please, by all means.
Well, I was going to add to that. Like, there's a lot of other calculations that people make, and for me, one thing that really got me into this vote blue no matter who mentality, like before in the Obama days, is that war with Iran. Basically, like, everyone was under this like impression that as soon as we get a Republican president, there will be war with Iran. And I think that what people have to realize is that we have to fundamentally change a lot to stop war with Iran, because even if Joe Biden wins, sure, I think he would probably try to redo the Iran deal and do like Obama's policy. But the thing is that doesn't mean that we stopped war with Iran. We won. 8 years later, when we get a Republican, a more competent one, they're going to want to do war with Iran. And Democrats will go along with it. So like, we need permanent solutions. That's the thing. It's like Joe Biden is like a temporary Band-Aid over the Trump wound. But if you don't fix the underlying conditions that got us to Donald Trump, then we're going to keep having this problem. The next Republican is probably going to be Roy Moore or some other wacko. You can't just say, we got out Trump, yay. It's more than that. It's deeper than that.
I mean, I'm going to be completely frank with you, brother. Like, the thing is that even if you elect Biden or any other Democrat, and you get like the Iran deal, back in place, or any kind of negotiation with Iran, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a projection of American imperialism, because they're dictating the conditions to Iran. I mean, I think of this in the reverse. Like, would you accept this if Iran came to you and said, like, no, we don't want you to develop this kind of energy. We don't want you to have these kinds of weapons. And now we're going to make a deal to make sure that you do what we want. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's still a projection of American imperialism. And not to mention, Iran has interests in the region because it's their region. I mean, right. I'm not arguing for or against what Iran supports, officially, but I'm just saying that it's not up to America nor the UK to come along and tell these countries what to do. I mean, they've been doing this for centuries now. You got to stop at one point. You got to you got to quit, man. And I'm saying this, as someone who's half British as well. I understand very well the colonialist, imperialist nature of our countries, what they've done. It's quite harsh. And I mean, a lot of people, they just don't understand that. They're not really concerned with foreign policy, and
oh, totally. Yeah. Well, part of it is there's so much propaganda that if you're just like a political observer who casually tunes into the news, like, you don't know what the fuck's going on when you hear about what's happening in the Middle East and North Africa and all the bombs that we're dropping. And so, like, if you are like someone who isn't an American, it's got to be awful to watch these elections in horror, knowing that, like, no matter who comes into office, that same imperialist status quo isn't going to change. So that's such a great point about how, it is America, kind of swinging their dick around internationally, for lack of a better word, just dictating their will. And it's awful. It is absolutely awful. And the problem is that we don't have like a party, because we live in, a duopoly where one of two parties wins every single election, right? Yeah. So it's like, we don't have an alternative that can win, that will end U.S. imperialism. Like, I think it's great that there's some anti-imperialist voices within the Democratic Party starting to kind of bubble up. But still, I mean, the way that things happen, like, even when I was in graduate school and I took classes, the way that professors even talk about, the so-called liberal, lefty professors talk about U.S. imperialism is that we're just the world's police. That's the way it is.
Exactly,
and, I would chime in.
That's not a
and
leftist
I would say,
position.
why? It's not at all a leftist position, and the problem is that with foreign policy, and the reason why these types of, anti-war movements haven't really been sustained is because there's this sense of out of sight, out of mind, right? If you're an American and you can go on with your life and not worry about what's happening or pretend like it's happening, then you don't have like any sense of urgency to stand up. But when something affects you directly, then, that's when you're going to take action. So, there used to be a lot of, anti-war activism, like, my parents' generation, were against the Vietnam War and whatnot. But part of the problem is that there's like, how many wars are we fighting? 7, 8? I mean, how many countries are we occupying? They're so overwhelming that it's just normal now. Like people born today know nothing but war. Like my nephew, he's 16. Ever since he's been alive, we've been at war. You know what I mean? It's just a normal phenomenon.
Yeah, this is really abysmal. And the thing is that the way I like to put it is that it affects Americans more than they think. I mean, if your taxpayer dollars are going to Raytheon to make bombs, they could have been going to build hospitals. Like this is not a joke. Like you even if you slashed your military spending in half, you'd still be spending more than any other country. And I mean, come on, man. Yeah, you got so many people without health care. For God's sake, take care of them first, and then worry about Iran or whoever else. Okay. Well, I mean, don't worry about them. Just leave everybody alone. But just
pretend like they don't exist.
Yes. I just think it's really crazy. That these taxpayer dollars, I'm serious, like they could be going towards healthcare, towards infrastructure, and they're not. They're just going towards war. And the corporations are making a killing off of this, literally. And we talk about the Vietnam anti-war movement. Like, where's the anti-war movement now? Now, I do remember before the Iraq war started, man, there were millions of people protesting all across the goddamn globe, everywhere, and thank God, like, people came out. But right now it's become like, people have become desensitized to it. And it's insane. It's like, oh yeah, we might go to war with Iran. Why not? Let's keep bombing Syria. Let's keep doing all these things. And no one cares. And the Democrats are complicit. They just no resistance whatsoever. It's really shocking to me. I look at this and I don't know what to say, man. Like, it's not just okay because my country's getting bombed. It's just like, dude, you don't even have healthcare. Like, what are you doing? Not, I know it's not your fault, obviously. I'm just saying in general. Like, I don't understand
totally.
it. Man, the UK, for example, I mean, they abolished the draft. Okay, so they don't have the draft anymore. Do you still have it in the US? I think you got half abolished or something. What exactly happened with that?
I think it's technically on the books. I'm not 100% sure, but it just hasn't been like called on or whatever. I know that it still is a thing. When we turn 18, we have to register for selective service. Males do, anyways.
Yes.
So it is like a thing. You don't register unless they have you.
That's so weird, right? Like that you have to go and register for the draft.
Audio.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I muted myself by accident. I had a Biden moment. Excuse me. No, but like that's so weird that you have to go and register for the draft. But if you get out of line, they'll find you. They'll find you and take care of you. And of course, they don't want you to register to vote automatically, right? Yeah. So voter suppression in full force. And that was really insane, this election. I mean, you had so many polling stations closed down at the last minute. I mean, how is that even legitimate? The stuff that went, you had people's ballots being stored on USB sticks. Like, what do you think of all of this shenanigans is an understatement, this fuckery that went on during this primary? What do you think of that? Is that a legitimate election?
No, maybe it was you that said it. I saw a tweet. I think this was from you, and I'm going to butcher it. But it was basically like, if our election took place in any other country, we would have bombed them to deliver them democracy, because that's how much of a sham it is. I mean, after
that sounds like something I would say. Yeah,
and it's so accurate. After Iowa, I was saying, look, we need an international observer. Like, I'm sorry, these types of these elections, nobody trusts in the process, and like a key component of democracy is that people actually believe that their vote matters. And once you start to lose
Right.
that, democracy just starts to unravel. And that's happening now, and nobody's really addressing it in the United States. And I think that it's going to lead to, more destabilization of the country. And, you just kind of like, it feels like we're at the end. Like, this is the empire dying, right? It
Yeah.
can't continue to exist, at least in its current state. And part of it is getting people to wake up. Like, I think that the point that you made is fantastic. And I always try to get people to acknowledge how ass backwards our priorities are. So when I say, I talk about war, I try to talk about it in the sense that it does benefit them by saying, why are you okay with people or the government spending our tax dollars to bomb babies in the Middle East, but you don't want to spend that money on welfare programs here at home? Like, I try to make it like a very concrete thing. And because if people don't get that there's going to be any sort of like benefit from us not bombing other countries, then they won't care, because we're very selfish human beings. You know what I mean? Not just America. I think humans in general are selfish.
You need
but you
to
have
make
to
it personal, relate it to them, so they can understand, that they're actually losing out, like, legitimately.
Exactly. I mean, we have a finite amount of money, right? Supposedly. So why are we spending all of that money on the military when we could use that to help you? Like, this is your tax. Like, you're paying your taxes, and you don't have a choice. You're going to pay your taxes. We're not going to live in some sort of libertarian utopia where you say, I'm not going to pay my taxes. You can't do that. That's not realistic. So what's going to happen is the taxes will be taken out of your paycheck, but you can demand that money actually benefit you. That's part of the social contract. Like, that's the fundamentals of like living in a society. Why is my money going to bombs that Saudi Arabia is dropping on Yemen? I don't approve of that. I don't consent to that happening, but yet it's happening anyway. So it's just a matter of like getting people to acknowledge that they are in control. They're the bosses, and people in Congress are subordinates. Like, it shouldn't be the other way around where they lead us.
Thank you. I love you, Mike. Thank you. That's it. That's it. Like, people in Congress, they are your subordinates. They work for you. Okay, I'm not saying like, I mean, I don't know how to say it in a polite way, but you're supposed to whip them into shape. You have to do it, because look how they're fucking you over. These people work for you. They're your subordinates. Okay, they're your bitches, and you need to put them in line. They are there to implement your will. When you say, I don't want my tax dollars going to Saudi Arabia, as you said, or to bomb people in Syria or Yemen or Libya, I want a fucking hospital. This is not something, out of a fairy tale. This is normal. This is human. This is something that other countries have already implemented. We're not asking for the fucking moon here, are we?
Yeah, it's very simple. And I think that if you try to like break it down into a way that's like relatable, because everyone has a boss that, they either love or hate. Most of them probably hate their bosses, but like, you have to be that asshole boss and it's never satisfied. You're always pushing your representative to go further. And when they actually do a good job, you have to say, great, now I want this. Like, you're never satisfied. Like, you have to be ruthless and you have to be relentless. And I've said this a couple of times.
I mean, like, if there's anyone that you should distrust, it's politicians, man. You have to keep these bitches in line. Otherwise, they will fuck around and fuck everyone over, fuck the entire planet. I'm serious. Like, they're shitting on the environment. They're shitting on people's healthcare. They're shitting on every single thing that you can possibly think of. They need to be kept in line. You need to whip them into shape. And, this notion that, we should idolize them and it's the squad. Yeah, you can do that after they give you Medicare for all, not when they're fucking tweeting about it. I mean, do you see this bullshit? They're like, we need Medicare for all and we need a rent freeze. Bitch, you work in Congress. I'm not, we know this. We agree with you. We love your ideas. Now go and do them. Like, why are you telling us on Twitter? I don't understand this. You should write that into legislation, into law. Are you not lawmakers? Did I miss something here?
I will say that it is important to like reiterate that thing so it shifts the Overton window. Part of it is, I think, strategic on their part to defend them a little bit, even though I do agree with the overall concept that you have to be ruthless and always push them because they're not celebrities or they're not heroes. But part of the issue that I think that the left overall has to get better at is marketing. You have to market your policy ideas. And I do think that part of that is branding, like with AOC, with the Medicare for All mask. Like, it's not going to get us Medicare for All, but I think it's important to keep it on people's minds. But with that being said, there is this frustration, right? Because it's like we keep talking about this, and we've been talking about Medicare for all now for at least 4 years in a really,
Yeah.
I think, sustained way,
Excuse
and we
me.
still aren't any closer. We still haven't had a vote after
Right.
Democrats took back the House. So this frustration, it's important, and I want the frustration to grow, not because I want people to be miserable, but because if there's no urgency, if there's no sense that you're
Yeah.
not getting it, then people easily go back to sleep. And one thing about this pandemic that's really uh happening that I think is kind of like a bittersweet thing is that it's really exposing all of the flaws that already existed in our disgusting capitalist system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now more than ever, people cannot go back to sleep. And that's why I'm hoping, like, even if Joe Biden wins, the left is continuously like awake,
I hope
build
so.
organizations, build power. But I lived through the Obama years. That's when I was really awakened politically, and it was easy to go to sleep. For me, as like I was what was it, like 21 years old when I voted for Obama. That was when I was old enough to vote for the first time, and my thinking was, oh, finally Obama won. Now I could just take back and play some video games. But I mean, I quickly realized that it's not so simple, right? And things don't always work out that way. And politicians, they're like they're constantly getting distracted. Like I have a puppy and she constantly gets distracted. I'll throw a toy and she'll run to get that toy. And then there's another toy. So she'll run and get that one. That's how politicians are. And you have to really like scream at them to get them to focus and pay attention. You know what I mean? Not that I scream at puppies, but you know what I'm saying? Like they have a short attention span, and they have a lot of people in their ears, special interests, and not just special interests. Like even politicians like AOC, she is dealing with competing interests, right? Not the left isn't a monolith, so there's going to be disagreements. So you have to really like. This is why organizing is so important. And I say this as someone who like I've been an activist before, but I've never like really been great at organizing. And I think that the left is going to have to get some new skills going into
yes, they
the
do.
next decade.
They do, and you're absolutely right. The thing is that if the left does not apply pressure, then where will the pressure come? From the right. And so you have these politicians veering off to the right. This is unacceptable. And like you said, they will get distracted by this and that. And it's one thing to say, oh, okay, I don't take corporate money. Fine. But how do we know you're not going to get pressured by your colleagues, or that Nancy Pelosi is not going to whip you into put you on a leash like a poodle? How do we know that? You're still going to be pressured from other places. There are still other factors. So this thing that, I don't take corporate money doesn't mean anything in the end if you're still going to act like a neoliberal. And if the left people, in general, the public, the electorate has to be the main source of pressure. Otherwise, the politicians are going to listen to the establishment, right? I mean, this is just logic. And I mean, this is this is completely unrelated. But I saw you talking to Ron Placone the other time, and you guys were talking about the in-betweeners. Oh my God, I died. Seriously. This is so. Sorry, I know this is completely unrelated, but dude, this is so crazy. This is such a niche British show, and to see you guys talking about it, and then Ron Placone's like, "There's gonna be lots of clunge, man." I fucking died. You guys killed me. I felt like, what timeline am I in? This is amazing.
No kidding. Yeah. So he texted me. He's like, "Hey, did you watch it?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I actually am on the 3rd season now. And I'm to the point where Simon and I don't want to spoil it, but Simon had a girlfriend named Tara. Well, I mean, it's an old show, so I'm just going to spoil it. It doesn't matter. They
ahead.
just broke up. It's so funny, and I find myself like using all of the slang that they use, and it's like it's so catchy. Like I love British humor so much, and nobody believes me when I say this, but like my favorite childhood show is Keeping Up Appearances. And I know that like that's not necessarily like what a young millennial man would say, but like I used to watch the show with my mom right before Mad TV. It would come on PBS in the US, and it was so funny. The British humor it's great, and I love the accents make everything completely like way funnier. Like when they talk about Will's dad is bent, it's so funny the way that they say it. Like all of their slang is fucking hilarious. It doesn't matter what they're saying. It
really is, man. And it's actually a shame there's only 3 seasons. Like that's the thing with British shows. They make really good stuff, and then they just do like 2 seasons or 1 or 3 seasons and cut it. It's gone. It's done. And it's like, come back. Where are you going?
I will say that they have the opposite problem in the US, right? Because like our shows last so fucking long. Like The Walking Dead is on like its 25th season.
Exactly. I was just thinking about that. What the fuck? What's going on? Are you still watching
that show at one point in time? No, I ducked out like 2 seasons ago because it's like, all right, there's no end game. This is just like zombie life simulator.
It's like watching
I'm
Democrats in Congress, you know. It's, like, it's the same shit over and over.
Yeah, it's perfect. So like the British shows, they end too early, and the American shows, they just don't end. Like you have to end at some point, otherwise it's not going to be interesting for forever. Like Breaking Bad was that sweet spot. Like I think after 5 seasons, you end, and then that's it. You ramp up the action, and we enjoy it. We see the end game, and it's more enjoyable that way.
Yeah, you're totally right, man. And like, I also had to make this observation, like the American shows, they just don't fucking end. They just trying to like, milk the fuck out of it, make as much money as they possibly can. Like, okay,
yeah,
it's enough. And did you see that film they made on Netflix? It was like Breaking Bad, but I forgot the goddamn name of the movie.
Oh,
it's
was
like
it El Camino?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
I did see that.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it a lot.
I liked it actually. I thought it was going to be bad because it's been a couple of years since I finished Breaking Bad. I actually really liked it. It's a good show. Man, it's a show that can only exist in America. Like I wonder what international viewers think of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course. Like there's people saying like, if the guy had healthcare, he would have never gone and made meth because.
Yeah, the show would have ended on day one.
Exactly. But seriously, I couldn't believe this. Like you and Ron Placone talking about clunge. I was like,
no kidding.
Amazing.
Clunge is my new favorite word, by the way.
Yes.
Like anything, I'm like a sponge when it comes to these shows. Like whatever they say, like I pick up and it becomes like my new personal meme. So like all of their little like the shit that they talk, like, oh, you're so fit. Like all these little things are so funny to me. It's hilarious. It reminds me of like Superbad, but like a British TV show version of Superbad.
Exactly.
Which at the time was kind of edgy, I guess. I was like a sheltered teen. So like as soon as like I discovered like all these curse words and I could say it, it was like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing ever. So this humor is like right up my alley, I feel like.
Yo, by the way, they made actually they made a US version of The In-Betweeners. And
oh, no kidding.
Oh God. Oh, Mike, brother, please go and watch it. Like you're going to hate it. It's the most atrocious thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
Like, I'm not kidding. They usually do that. They make like US remakes of, remakes of British shows. Like they did a US version of Skins. And then they also, The Office, for example, The Office is the only American remake that has ever been better than the original. And I know like the entire United Kingdom is going to hate me now, but I'm sorry, the US version is better. But like go and watch In-Betweeners US and please tell me what you think of that. It is atrocious. I'm not kidding.
That sounds really bad because I feel like without the accents and like the UK slang, it wouldn't be funny. Cause like it's fascinating because of the way that they say things and that's to me is what makes it, so yeah, it sounds horrible. I probably will check it out of curiosity though.
Yo,
man, I'm in a show hole. I need more shit.
Yeah, seriously, like check it out, but please don't hate me because it is bad. It's really terrible. And and like I wanted to ask you, what do you think of? Okay, so going back to politics, I just wanted to talk about that quickly. Like, what do you think of like these third parties? Because you mentioned Howie Hawkins before. So that's Green Party, and I actually have a few issues with Howie Hawkins that I actually talked about on a live stream and then I forgot to upload it. But like because I looked at him like at his policies and okay, everything is straight. I love it. Like everything is dope. It's even better than Bernie Sanders. He goes even further on some things, especially climate change. But then like. With foreign policy, like I wasn't convinced because the thing that I want to see, it's not just like anti-imperialism, like, oh, we're going to end the wars. I want to know, like, are you going to implement sanctions? Like, will you stop sanctioning other countries and not militarily, just with embargoes, but like also food, medicine? Like, what are you going to do about Venezuela? Like these positions were not clear. So I wasn't convinced because then it's like, oh, if I don't talk about them, people can't criticize me. So I wanted to know more. And I mean, maybe he's said more and I'm not aware. I mean, maybe you can, I don't know if anyone else knows where he said something, but yeah, what do you think about that? And what do you think about like these other parties? I've also heard of People's Party, I think it was with
oh, right.
Yeah. And oh my God, another thing that I wanted to ask you about, I think Nick Brana is his name. He was from People's Party. He was at Our Revolution and he said that, Jeff Weaver tried to get Bernie Sanders to take billionaire money. you know, Bernie and Jane Sanders, they were on board, and then most of the staff at Our Revolution had to resign to get him not to do it. What do you think of that? Like, I mean, this is crazy, right? So
yeah. So I'll go to the third party thing first. I did do an interview with Howie Hawkins, and by what he said, he hasn't addressed it, but I get the impression that he would stop sanctions on other countries, because I asked him, well, I didn't ask him, but I told him how, you know, his platform, I prefaced the question about how he goes further than Bernie. He supports reparations. He supports BDS. And he kind of briefly explained his take on sanctions overall, but how he would support it because it's a Palestinian-led movement. So I do get that impression that he would, although if he hasn't put that explicitly on his website, he definitely should. I think that his strengths are more in terms of like United States organizing and activism, whereas Jill Stein was very like foreign policy focused. And I really admired that about her. But in terms of third parties, my view on this is complicated, right? Because we live in a two-party system, not because there's some sort of legal, you know, mandate or constitutional provision that says we can only have two parties, but because of Duverger's law, which means we have, you know, a majoritarian winner-take-all system. So if you really want third parties to actually win, you can't just keep voting for them and expect them to win, expect enough people to wake up and turn out. You need electoral reform. But this isn't as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. Like, there's actually bills in Congress that would move us in that direction to where we could maybe, you know, if not be a multi-party system, at least open the door to third parties here and there to where they can win seats in Congress, which is important. You know, the bill is HR 4000. And so this would end gerrymandering. It would move to ranked choice voting nationwide, which is crucial. And on top of that, we would have multi-member districts, which means rather than just voting for like one representative in the House, you'd have maybe two or three, depending on your district and how populated it is. So that's number one. If you want them to win, which we all should, then we need electoral reform. But with that being said, you don't just stop once you get electoral reform, because new voices, they will inevitably be corrupted, because we live in a capitalist system where institutions, they decay, they have a shelf life, right? But that's an entirely different point. But in terms of like you voting for third parties in a two-party system, I think it can have an impact. And what I mean by that is, if you vote for a third party because they have a particular agenda, then that kind of in a way is a message to the other parties. It's a check in a way, a light check on the power of the two parties. So in a way, the Libertarian Party can kind of hold Republicans accountable by stealing off some of that base. And the Libertarian Party is a lot more effective at getting votes away from Republicans than the Greens are from Democrats, believe it or not. And nobody will say that. But with the Green Party, basically, they've really been effective at setting the agenda in America. So we're talking about the Green New Deal and the Democratic Party, but Howie Hawkins is the person who came up with that. We're talking about student debt cancellation. Jill Stein is the first person who proposed that, who is part of a national party. So, you know, you can help shift the Overton window by voting for third parties. And a lot of people, like a lot of lefties in deep blue states like California, New York, like there's nothing to lose in voting for third party. It's great to help them if they get like federal funding.
And you know, I mean, they can't blame you then that, oh, you cost us the state or something. I mean, this is,
well, they'll try. I have people who definitely think that I helped them with Trump, and they tell me to say hi to Vladimir Putin. That's all fun and dandy, but
you know, of course, man. You know, we're broadcasting live from the Kremlin, as you know, as you all know. So
absolutely. You know, we're best buds. I'm sure that he, you know, I'm the only gay person that Vladimir Putin knows and loves.
You see?
No, but like, it's, you know, it's important. But at the end of the day, my goal in supporting third parties isn't just to like support them to send a message to the Democratic Party. Like, we want electoral reform. We want them to have seats in Congress. And so where you can make a difference. Like, for example, in Maine, Lisa Savage is a Green Party candidate who's running, and they have ranked choice voting. So she is relatively competitive. We saw like in 2018 with Kenneth Mejia in California, they have a jungle primary. So he made it into the runoff against Jimmy Gomez. So like in areas where you can make a difference, you should. But at the end of the day, your, you know, support and advocacy for Green Party candidates and the party as a whole shouldn't end with you voting for them. Like, you really need to push for electoral reform.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's crucial, right? Because I don't want to just keep voting Democrat, Republican. Like, if we got Green Party members elected to Congress, it's totally, it's so frustrating. And having a presidential system versus parliamentary, I think makes it worse, but that's a different discussion. But I mean, like, if we had more members of the Green Party in Congress and the Libertarian Party in Congress, I would argue, most likely, it's not a guarantee, that Republicans probably wouldn't be as extreme because the Libertarians would kind of yank them back to reality, and Democrats wouldn't be as extreme as well because they'd have to compete with the Green Party. But I mean, this is such a difficult thing. Like, we don't have any Green Party members or Libertarians elected, so it's a long battle, but I think it's one that's important if you believe in democracy. Moving on to the Jeff Weaver thing. So I actually remember, I think I reported on that video where there was like this mutiny in our revolution with Jeff Weaver. And my comment at the time was, I don't know anything about the internal politics of the Bernie Sanders campaign, so I'll have to kind of withhold judgment. But if the staffers are against him, then they should definitely take that to heart, because you without your staffers, if everyone walks, the optics are bad, but also you need these people. These are organizers. So I do blame Bernie Sanders for the Jeff Weaver stuff, because guess what? Bernie Sanders has a lot of people advising him, but you, at the end of the day, choose whether or not you want to take their advice. And clearly Jeff Weaver has been misleading Bernie Sanders. And, if I'm Bernie Sanders, I'm firing him immediately. Goodbye. You formed a super PAC, you're no longer my advisor. But here's the thing that I'm learning about Bernie Sanders, that we're all kind of learning with this election cycle. It's a double-edged sword. He's a really nice guy and he's loyal. So that's great. But in, a really late stage capitalist society where you have to be more Machiavellian, not going to do too great for you politically, electorally. Yep. So yeah, I love Bernie, but I blame him for Jeff Weaver. Fire him. Stop letting him advise you. Otherwise, if you make these bad decisions, you can't just, Jeff Weaver told me to. I mean, you're a United States senator. At some point you have to, draw a line in the sand and say, here, either you care about my agenda or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man. I love Bernie Sanders too. We have all supported Bernie Sanders in one way or another, whether it's making videos or spreading the word or convincing someone or debating with someone or telling them about Bernie Sanders, or people who phone banked, canvassed, donated. Everybody has supported. Okay, and so you can't come along and then say, like, us doing videos, we do like 99 videos praising Bernie, we're saying we love Bernie, saying this is good. And then we do one video where we're critical because we can't accept this bullshit. And people are like, oh, stop it, you're being too... Hold on a second. This is unacceptable. Like, at some point, Bernie Sanders has to take responsibility for, Jeff Weaver hanging around him and giving him this ludicrous advice. And 2 elections, right? So last time he was running a campaign, and this time he's a senior advisor, and he's still writing speeches for him and stuff. Come on, man. This guy is evil. I mean, I don't know if he's, acting on his own or it's counterintelligence. Who knows? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, whether it's a conspiracy or not, doesn't matter. This is irrelevant. I'm talking about Bernie Sanders taking responsibility and us also being able to hold a critical viewpoint of that. This is unacceptable. And I don't know what went on in there. I don't think we can ever know, or unless we had a fly on the wall or something. But if all the staffers were resigning, that's quite powerful. It's alarming.
Yeah, that's a really, really big message that they're sending, and they know that the organization that I'm assuming they believe in is going to get bad press because of this. That's a huge statement to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a huge red flag, and I wish that Bernie Sanders would have taken it more seriously. And to your point about us, we like Bernie Sanders, but this is why I think he should listen to us, because it's coming from a place of love. Like, you have to call out people who you support. Otherwise, oftentimes they're only human beings. They're going to get, out of lockstep with the movement. I think that's important. And I do like that, there's like this conflict, right? Because one of the first videos that I did after Bernie dropped out, where I criticized him, I don't remember which subreddit it was on, and I don't know why I even saw it, but it was like, oh, they're already turning on Bernie, and it was like a video of me, and I'm like, oh, fuck off. But at the same time, I'm like in a cult, you know what I mean? So are we culty, or are we just turning on, But
yeah, they can't make their minds up with the smears. Which one is it?
I don't know what it is. They can use whatever one that makes them feel comfortable. But the point is, like, we're nuanced human beings. Like, it's everything isn't just black or white. It's not Bernie good, Bernie bad. There's a lot of gray area. We're all humans, and it's the same for us. We're not perfect political commentators.
Of course not.
And we make a lot of mistakes. If you go back to like 2015, 2016, I'm sure I have some cringe takes that I no longer agree with, but we're all, trying to do what's best. And so if I criticize Bernie, then that doesn't mean that I'm like turning on him and I'm, throwing him away. It's just like a matter of like, I respect him and I want him to do better. And it comes from a place of love and concern. And that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. We're allowed also to be frustrated at the status quo. This is, come on, man. Who could tolerate this? Like, how can you look at this stuff and not be enraged regardless, Bernie Sanders or not? And it is frustrating when you see something like that happen. Totally. I have another question. What book would you recommend? What are you reading right now? Do you have anything that you recommend me or recommend the people watching? Whatever's on your mind.
So I just finished a book last night and I cannot remember the authors. It was based off of a Jacobin article where they talk about why the left lost and how they can win. And they kind of go through Jeremy Corbyn, the Communist Party in Greece, Syriza, and Bernie Sanders.
Lovely.
It was really fascinating, but I think the article probably did a good enough job summarizing it. I will say, if you're looking for a book, a really, really great read is always going to be Richard Wolff. I just reread his book. Do I have it in here? No, I don't have it in here. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it. It was on Occupy, basically. And it's a conversation with him and another professor. And he just kind of goes through everything that's wrong with our capitalist system based off of questions that his colleague asks. And it's still relevant today, but there's probably more updated books. I just read through Michael Brooks's new book. I really liked it. I think that there's some great takeaways for the left at the end in terms of like how we can appeal to a broader audience and not turn people off. What else did I read? I read Nathan J. Robinson's book in January, Why You Should Be a Socialist. And I thought it was good. I would have liked him to go a little bit like deeper in terms of like some of his policy positions. But overall, I do think it's like a good introduction to socialism. I'm always trying to find something new to read. Usually it's going to be something about Bernie Sanders and like a look at what he did wrong or the movement or Marx, because I love Marx, but it's really difficult to reread fucking Capital. I have the book. It's like, it's like 4 inches thick and I don't want to reread that. So I go through like all of the professors who kind of like break down Marx. And I did read this in college, but it's just like, okay.
It's really fucking difficult, man. And, you mentioned Dr. Wolff. He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, his videos are great and also his books. He really does a great job of breaking it down. It really is wonderful.
His writing style is really great because like, even if you're tired, like for me, I find it difficult to concentrate sometimes when I'm really tired. His writing style is so easy to like read and digest that it really helps. So like anything from Richard Wolff, I always recommend. He's probably like one of my favorite, if not my favorite author, at least currently, because he does such a great job at explaining all the flaws with capitalism. And capitalism is a giant topic. So like I read right before I'm about to go to bed. And so like my brain is already like halfway not functioning at that point, but I could still like really enjoy his books. So Wolff is a good one.
They're excellent. His like you said, he explains stuff really simply, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Is that actually sometimes because he went to Harvard, Stanford, and Yale, I think. These people that go to these excellent colleges, I mean, they actually are the best at explaining things, and they break it down perfectly. That's why they come from these colleges and teach there, or have been educated there. And I think his latest books were I had something called like Understanding Socialism and Understanding Marxism, something like that. Those are the titles. Like the latest ones, at least the last two that he put out.
That book, Understanding Marxism, I read it in one night. It was like a 2-hour read. It was good stuff. It's just it goes over like the key concepts in Marx, but it's a great little refresher because again, like if you're gonna read Capital, that's gonna be a long fucking read, and you need a lot of patience for that.
Seriously, man. Seriously. Mike, before I let you go, I have one last important question.
Sure.
How can I grow a beard as majestic as yours? What does it take? Because I've been trying, man. My Arab genes, they ain't working right now. Help me. What's the secret?
I don't know. My dad and my brothers were able to grow really good beards, and I think it's just genes. I don't know what it is, but part of it also, I will say, because that's kind of a cop-out answer. you can trim it in a way to make it look more full. And on top of that, there's like really good beard oils that my barber, back when I could see a barber before this pandemic, told me
Right.
about, that really help like to stimulate growth and make it more healthier and whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that yours is perfectly fine though, and I will say that level is much more easily maintainable, because like waking up and having bedhead and beard head is very annoying. It's like you have to comb your hair and your beard. It's so difficult to maintain. But if I don't have a beard, I look like a beta male cuck, so I have to have one. But yeah.
Of course, man. You know, we got to be kings, right? We out here. We got to look fresh. Of course.
Exactly. As much as we can, right?
Yes. No, but seriously, man, I'm so grateful that you came on the show. I've been watching you for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm just
that's awesome.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to talk to you and have you on here. Seriously. So I'm really grateful for everything, and it was a great discussion. And please forward me that article that you read about Corbyn and all this stuff, and
I will, yeah,
and the beard oils and all that. You know what I'm saying?
You'll have a bunch of links that I'll send to you. And let me just say thank you for having me on. It's awesome to see new voices pop up. Ideally, I want to see like at least a dozen new political commentators pop up every single year. But it doesn't really happen unless there's election years. And you are one of the most important voices because you have an outsider perspective. Like the way that you go on those rants where you talk about how your politicians bombed my fucking country. That's really powerful because people aren't getting that type of frank, like political commentary. So it's crucial. And anytime there's like a new voice in indie media, I try to do my best to help them grow by, coming on the channel, promoting it, because, we shouldn't have like a monopoly on indie media. It shouldn't just be like a couple of voices who are dominant. We need a lot of voices. It has to be decentralized. It has to be really, really diverse in terms of ideology and just people. So I'm glad to have you. Welcome to indie media life.
Thank you so much, brother. And you're right. We got to be a tidal wave and get rid of the mainstream media. So we're
absolutely.
For real, man. For real. Again, brother, thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you, man.
You're the best. All right. I'll see you around, man. Take care. Okay. Be safe.
All right.
Be
you
good.
as well.
Ciao. Take care.
Take care.
All right. I think I can still put myself back on. 1 second. Hold on. Can y'all see me full screen now? Y'all can see me like that. Okay. How you guys? Did you guys enjoy that? Mike was absolutely wonderful. I'm like, my brain hasn't registered yet that I just had Mike Figueredo on the show. Humanist Report in the flesh, the one and only. That was absolutely brilliant. And Mike is a legend. Wow, I'm seeing all the comments now because I'm bringing them up now on the screen. Do you see how smooth that transition was? See, I'm getting good at this. That was look. I see everybody here representing. That was lovely. Seriously, what a wonderful discussion. And I'm so glad that you guys were here to see that. Man, talking about books, seriously, Richard Wolff, very good, and I would recommend as well. And I see Tisha in the chat, dropping the crabs. Claudia, everybody here's representing. Aaron, no, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. You can tell. I'm still a bit. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Yes, Anna, I see your comment. I will be trying to do that tomorrow. So again, we have another special guest coming on tomorrow. Aaron Matei from the Grayzone. Yes, 4 p.m. EST. So what would that be in Los Angeles time? That would be y'all 3 hours behind, so 1 p.m. I guess, West Coast. 4 p.m. EST. Aaron Matei will be here. I'll be trying to live stream on Rockfin as well. But yeah, that was just epic. Yeah. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. My brain hasn't registered it yet. So seriously, thank you guys so much for being here. And this was awesome. Mike is a legend. Thank you everybody for the super chats. I'll try to read them. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to refresh. All right, all right, all right. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Men in Black. Thank you very much. Says great power duo. Alex Schmidt says, can you be in 1% and at the same time be against the 1%? No, it doesn't work. Or maybe, that's a complicated question. Florin, thank you very much. Nisi says, thank you, Papi and Mike. And Mariposa says, love you both. Mike is how I found you. Oh, see? Thank you very much. Mike is the best. Aaron says, thank you, Papi. Fantastic job. You and Mike had great chemistry and super dynamic discussion. Thanks, Papi. Keep it rolling. You got this. No, seriously, I don't even know what to say, man. That was just absolutely insane. King of Dreams, thank you very much for your super chat as well. Yeah, guys. So, like, again, we got, we're gonna keep having special guests on here and having great discussions, and it's how we're rolling, baby. I don't know what else to say. By the way, I tomorrow, no promises, but I will be trying to get this stream everywhere. Okay, so not just YouTube, but Twitter and Rockfin and everything. So there we go. But yeah, Aaron Matei, 4 p.m. EST. Just a girl, thank you. It says you're so happy. Nice to see you. I know I'm trying so hard not to fangirl. It's difficult. It's it's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So there you go. Yes, Michael Cole. Oh, B Green. I see your comment. I hope so. That would be wonderful to go on Jimmy's show. I absolutely love Jimmy Dore. He's a legend. I think somebody sent. Hold on a second. I think people have been sending super chats on PayPal because PayPal take a smaller cut, right? You two take 30%. So let me read them to you. You guys are wonderful. Okay, give me a second over here. So Mona darling says, can we have an In-Betweeners watch party? It's one of my faves. You know the show? Yes, we're gonna do it. We got Lawrence of Arabia, In-Betweeners. What else? There's one more movie. You got to remind me. What I love the In-Betweeners, and that's absolutely epic. Oh, Maniac. Maniac, are you still? Maniac is really Maniac. Merci énormément. Says, here's to help your brain. You did just have Mike Figueredo on your stream, and you rocked, and he rocked, and you both rocked, and do that again. Hell yes. Merci énormément. Thank you so much for this generous donation. I'm really humbled. Mona says, my heart is on overload. Awesome job, Papi. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys were here. I really am. I'm so glad nobody missed it. And this is like, I had Shai Batar on, and now my figure. I'm really blessed. I can't believe this. Like, my brain still hasn't registered. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry, very much for the donation. And oh yes. Maniac says, I forgot to hit the like. Claudia fixed me. Thank you, Claudia, for telling everybody hit the like button. Mikey Chulaman. Now, seriously, you guys are too generous. I'm really blessed. Thank you so much. And Amanda also dropped in super chat. Okay. King. Okay, so this is JB Font. I was so excited to see this. I'm glad. Again, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. That was wonderful. And yeah, tomorrow we're gonna have a very interesting discussion. You guys know the great work that the Grayzone do, so we'll have Aaron on, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. So okay, I guess we'll leave it on a wonderful high note, and thank you everybody for joining and supporting the channel and sending super chats and everything and tuning in. Yes, I am giggling. I'm giggling indeed. You guys are the best, and thank you so much to Mike for coming on. Absolutely wonderful. So yeah, just make sure you're here tomorrow, 4 p.m. EST, and we will be having another live stream with Aaron Matei. And yeah, I'll just drop the links below, the Twitter, everything, so you can stay updated and you don't miss nothing. All right. I love you guys. So here we go, guys. There we go. Oh, Jack Sith. Jack Sith is a connoisseur of movies. 3 Days of the Condor. Not many people know that movie. I love it. I love it. God, I want to watch that right now. 3 Days of the Condor. But no, seriously, like I'm having like what do they call that? An out of body experience. I'm not kidding. I had that at one point during I'm listening to Mike and I'm like, is this happening? I'm here with Mike Figueredo. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. I'm gonna stop. Enough fangirling. Seriously, I love you guys. Thank you so much for all your donations and your support and for being here. I'm gonna drop the links here. You can support the channel on PayPal, on Patreon, and Rockfin. Rockfin is probably the best option because they don't take as much as the others. Okay, just saying. So there we go. La chingona. Don't call me out like that. All right, guys. And I got to drop my Twitter as well, so you can follow me. Apparently, I'm popular on there. Okay, I'm gonna stop. You guys are the best. I'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. EST. Take care. I love you. Bye bye.